All right, you're live whenever you're ready.
Hey, it's Jennifer Vacakos here, and I'm here with Dalien of 13 Hands doing a podcast for Here for Savasana. I am super excited and stoked. We have Kadt as a sponsor. If you are familiar with Kadt, you know her leggings have incredible fit, and that she has an international community of like-minded people following her and gives back to yogic values, and has given over $150,000 over the past 5 years since her inception in 2006. Wait a minute, that wasn't 5 years. Anyways, she's grown her international community, and her followers include can we just start over?
All right, you're live. So just
I'm live?
Yeah,
Okay.
You're live. Start over.
I
I
was so much more excited to
Sorry, just work past it.
work past it. Okay, so Kadt, amazing leggings, amazing fit, amazing woman. Met her at the Global Mala, and I made a complete fool of myself. The way I just introduced her was probably the way that I sounded when I was speaking to her. I am fortunate to be sitting here with Dalien.
Hang on, your mic just went out. I think it just moved.
It's otherwise known as. It's not of 13 Hands.
There you go.
Otherwise known as.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I'm sitting here with Dalien, otherwise known as 13 Hands. He plays upwards of 60 instruments and currently is going to be putting us in some sort of bliss. But first, he's going to tell us his story of how he got here, how he got to sharing his talent and his craft with all of us.
Thank you for having me this fine
Well,
day.
thank
All
you.
of you. This is a wonderful studio. I'm still enamored with all of the toys here and all the different cartoons.
It is. We are sitting here in a Universal Podcast studio with Ming Chen, who's helping us out with the recording of this event. We're also sitting here with Laki Masanov. Did I say it right? Oh, thank you.
So first the earth cooled, then the dinosaurs came, and then they got too big and large and turned into oil, and then
You have a unique way of relaying a story. But what I'm interested in is how you came to be this professor of all things sweet and sound and sweet to the ears.
Well, it's like all of us in this world of yoga and mind-body wellness and social service. It's the never-ending Humpty Dumpty-esque-ness of your own adversities, guiding you, nudging you, and then synchronicity and serendipity of things seemingly randomly appearing in your life to bring your attention that you need to focus over here, or you need to go do this. Maybe you got to go take yoga or go to get Reiki or whatever it is. For me, it started when I was a very young teenager. I don't think anybody had the Brady Bunch family upbringing. We all have different levels of... We're all walking around with PTSD in some way, shape, or form, depending on the experiences we've had. Our fathers and fathers, grandfathers, great-grandfathers' generations, the reindoctrination of what's happening now in society about becoming a more evolved, balanced male between the masculine, feminine qualities. We've been handed, as far as men, this hunter-gatherer, provider, no emotion, close it down. Any type of expression of your feelings is not manly, or, it's not considered strong. So most of us, my father was military. And it turned out to be a blessing in disguise just because of the nature of the discipline, and being a Virgo, because it was his way or the highway. No offense to the Virgos in the world. I'm Gemini, so I like some structure, but I want to kind of go take off on my own plane and fly around and figure it out. My mom's a Taurus. Love her very much. We're very dear friends. I talk to her at least once a week, checking in. But very pragmatic, very organized personality. My sister's a Taurus, so I've been surrounded by very organized, which I think is why I've been able to do what I do. Once I kind of had to go through the thicket of the endocrine system challenges I went through. So, and when I was 14, we were all sophomore year of high school, went sleigh riding up a Gaura Mountain, a really nice little hill. Everybody was bringing their sleds. It was that kind of year after freshman year where everybody's kind of getting to know all these new friends you're making, because it was 3 different towns all coming together in one high school. So we're just, it's wintertime. We're sleigh riding. And my childhood buddy, Mike, who was from Totowa, where I was from, his sled and my sled went down at the same time. He just traversed over into my path, and he just slowed down and stopped. And I couldn't get out of the way. And so, of course, the natural reaction is kind of tucked like this. And so the top of my head hit him straight on in the face, took out his front 4 teeth, which look incredible. You wouldn't even know that they're not real. Because we always joke and toast every high school reunion.
Oh, you're still friends with him?
Oh, yeah. I see him every high school reunion. We try to meet every 5 years. Our high school class is very close that way. We enjoy really... We're all Year of the Dog, 1970, so it's like a big pack of... It's really an interesting camaraderie. I really still talk to a lot of my high school friends and love them dearly. It's just a real kind of cool tribal vibe. So anyway, I was thrown back, but upon impact, it's the law of physics. My whole kind of spine compressed forward like an accordion as I hit, and then I was thrown back, and so the upper C-spine was compromised into a military neck formation. So you lost...
Holy crap.
Yeah, and then a 14 millimeter compensation on the right pelvis had to lift up and then torque forward as a result to compensate for the compression of C1 through C7. So unbeknownst to me, you're 14 years old, and so I'm living with this for like almost like 8-9 years, all through high school and college. And
Which, did you just get up from the snow accident and
no, I
walk
was
away,
unconscious
or?
for a good 10 minutes.
And went to the hospital?
Well, I guess, yeah, it was
X-rays
emergency thing, and I had like almost like that big dog collar kind of thing around my neck. And
this is just traumatic as a teenager anyways, because you're trying to...
Well, it's a 1-2 shot to the brainstem, which could have killed me, depending maybe if it was a little faster, who knows, or maybe a couple inches over.
Right.
Who knows?
But,
I try not to think about that anymore. It's actually kind of... And as far as teaching yoga, it has really allowed me to help people with all different types of spinal issues, just because I've spent half my life, like I said, kind of coordinating the realignment, and I got the curve back, and I've got my pelvis down to a good... Nobody's pelvis is perfect on the XYZ axis, so you just try to finagle with the practice, good strong core toning, and chiropractic, and any kind of muscle release, fascia, deep muscle memory, trauma release, all this stuff that affects how your spine stays consistently positioned, and why you're trying to keep the muscle strong and toned to support that fluidity and lucidness, or that's not the right word, fluidity in the spine. So it really has been like a Sherlock Holmes, Jenga, Rubik's Cube kind of thing from a structural standpoint during my childhood, to kind of get the right insight and then find the right practitioners to kind of help. And so, but it's like a short circuit to the electrical systems when you get that type of head trauma, and it just kind of, but you don't know that. And so things start falling apart. And then when I was 15, my mom and dad separated for about a year, and they were fighting as most parents do. And some separate, some divorce. And obviously, as kids, I have a brother and a sister. We all process that stuff differently, for whatever the reason. And what seems consistent with children is that when the parents have a hard time or they divorce or separate, there is a certain kind of blame that they put on themselves, thinking, what did I do to cause mom and dad not to get along, et cetera, et cetera. So, but then it turns to anger, because you typically pick one parent or the other to side with. And that's okay. I mean, everything's cool now, but the process was... later on, when I tried to understand things, when I sat down and talked to my mom, when I was 15, my dad was coming home from a business trip, and he wanted to go golfing. And I just said, no, I'm not interested. Just, I said, fuck off, and dropped the phone. And later that evening, his plane was hit by lightning, and he went down in a field in Texarkana, Texas.
Shit.
Yeah, and everybody on board died instantly. Well, they were all dead before it hit the ground. But at 15, that was like immense anger, guilt, just, sometimes you don't get closure. Sometimes words are left unsaid. And you have to kind of, again, put the pieces back together as you watch your nervous system and your immune system absorb that emotional hit, not just the structural hit from a year before. So those two were basically, I think, the major catalysts.
The foundation.
The foundation of what threw the entire endocrine system into a downward turd spiral, if you will.
That you had to deal with.
Oh, yeah, but every year it just, things kept getting worse, more symptoms, and then you're in the Western medicine model of antibiotics, and, they don't even let you have tetracycline anymore because, kids get acne, so they kind of do things like that. They would dope you up on tetracycline for acne and skin issues, and it basically was a nuclear bomb to your gut flora. And so you become a walk-in systemic yeast infection. I could take a dump of leavened bread right now. Just kidding. It's just a little yeast joke.
Your humor is just kind of oh, did he just say that? Okay.
Yeah, well, depends on depends on what I'm talking about. And it's just so much of it now, I think, right, as you do this practice and you learn to self-soothe yourself and you become very masterful over your parasympathetic nervous system response, that the memories come through much easier. You're relaxed, there's trust in the body, there's the vulnerability, there's all that growth and change and healing, that allows for you to get very, very clear on the different experiences so that you can process, write about them, speak about them, and just use them as part of what,
healing.
What
And it's usually never just one modality. It's multiple different things that you're going at it from a very different angles. Like, so you found yoga, you have good chiropractor, music. Talk to me about music. When this resonated, when you were like, oh, I'm onto something here, and I'm going to start playing 60 instruments.
Well, it really, it started in third grade. I came home from what most kids have, the music program growing up. And it was the recorder playing Hot Cross Buns or Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they even have music programs anymore?
I'd like to think that some of the schools still do. The Montessori schools, the private. I mean, there's a big homeschool movement in New Jersey alone, like Essex County. I mean, there's a lot of people realizing that there's certain improvements that need to happen in education, that it's just not well-rounded and supports every child's development. There needs to be more creative type of curriculum. So my mom, seeing how shy and quiet I was, just because my dad was it was this order, and I'm like, I want to fly. I'm like, order. And so when she saw me come home with the recorder, she said, that's it. And so then our neighbors had a daughter whose husband, the neighbor's daughter's husband's father was a really great musician. You got that? So my neighbor had a daughter.
Is it important?
Yeah, no, because the guy plays. That's how I remember it.
Okay.
So he was a great musician. He was my first teacher. He taught clarinet, flute, saxophone. He used to run with a lot of the dudes in the Glenn Miller band. I mean, he was a really masterful musician, and that was like my first indoctrination to music and theory and sight reading, and being able to play was mostly clarinet. But again, it was a good discipline, but it was a softer discipline. It wasn't the military, even though music takes discipline, especially when you're learning music and how to read music and find tempo. It's math. And it's a fun thing when you're a kid because your brain is always developing, all through childhood. So my mom was very adept in realizing that this is what this child needs. Because I was just, as a Gemini, any air sign typically starts multiple things at the same time and never finishes anything. And so it's kind of a funny thing that I've seen just every air sign I've ever known. Not that I try to generalize or group people into astrological stereotypes, but there's certain things that we're just really strong at and some things that we're pretty habitual. There's like certain patterns in all of us that there is a link there with the astrological component. So with that being said, it just led from clarinet to piano to organ to guitar to drums. It was just one thing. It was the way Bruce Lee was so passionate about martial arts. He just kept studying every style. He just wanted to understand it in his body so he could almost figure out what was inefficient about it. I mean, the guy was like 137 pounds. He was throwing people around the room 3 times his weight because the speed at which his blood coursed through his veins over his muscles is what made him so strong and so fast. He wasn't like super huge and rigid. He was muscular and limited body fat. But the guy was just a walking missile of chi and, and energy. When you really watch him and study his movements and his commitment to trying to understand the human body as it relates to the martial arts. So for me, the music became that type of focus because I knew that it calmed me down. I saw even as a child, there was something that's like, wow, I feel, you're breathing better, just the way yoga does. It all starts to open you up. So it was what I needed, kind of dealing with the stress, of a very, very just organized household where I didn't feel understood. I mean, I I love my dad. I forgave him. I worked through all of that in 20 some odd years. And me and my mom have a wonderful friendship. I love my sister. I love my brother. But you have to go through those rites of passage that we're all doing. It's just we all have insight and tools and perspectives that help us all kind of springboard off of one another.
Yeah, I oftentimes say our greatest challenges in life are our largest revelations.
Amen.
You know?
Yeah.
So you knew that music affected you, this style of yoga affected you, and shifted something for you. When did you realize that you could be a good, I want to say teacher, but it's something more than that. You transmit something in a class. You give something. You give an experience. I said experience in the podcast with Lockie, experience of yourself to students. But it's like you're a medium of something greater pouring through you.
That's very kind. I appreciate that. It's an integration of just everything that I've learned. I approach and teach yoga from a very organ-centric place. I mean, how could I not? Having, gone through the symptoms of, colitis and Crohn's and the jaundice and leaky gut and could never walk into a room with anybody wearing perfume, getting nauseous and sick, near throwing up. I mean, all that's gone. I've healed the gut, and that's why I'm in trauma work, doing all the stuff with sound and yoga to get people back in touch with their body, learning to breathe again so that they can process the fear and the emotions, the nightmares, the memories, all of the triggers. So the music, it is kind of channeled in the sense that I'm very present to the room. I can read a room, not like in a way of judgment. It's just compassionate assessment of what's going on energetically. You can see by how people stand and hold their posture. You see, okay, 3 people got a lower right shoulder. Okay, that means the left hip is higher. So you're just making little notes, little simple things that you understand, which is why I do a lot of anatomy teaching and why yoga teacher training programs. I get brought in to kind of integrate that kind of seeing the body, talking about, that relationship so that you can be of best service to your student. And then obviously the kirtan and the sound and the nada and the bhakti yoga to show, even if you're not a musician, you could still pick up a little gong and go, bong, 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 just like a very boring, monotonous, repetitive little gong chime over 10 minutes can completely turn a crowd until they're drooling on themselves and piss on their pants in relaxation. And that's kind of what we're trying to help each other with is the parasympathetic nervous system response, because that's the flight response, and we're always in hyper fight mode. 50% of your cortisol goes into your gut. And so when there is a yeast imbalance or bacterial, flora stuff, we're egging on and exacerbating a lot of these biological imbalances, which throw off our mind. And then the thyroid is trying to overcompensate and throws off our metabolism. And so we're in this kind of loop of stress following stress, and then all the different components of digestion start to go under, which is, now that we see the science with the gut. And so when I do this, I just try to be present. I always try to say a prayer. I'll either start with like some flute in the beginning of a class just to get everybody set in a blessing for their life and what they're grateful for, and just to get their breath rodeoed in.
Yeah.
And then we go from there.
I do feel that is a skill level of a true teacher, is being able, and you said it, to read a room
compassionately
and respond to it. And it's, from a non-judgment place. And it's a place that doesn't come from ego of, let me show you what I can do. It's a place of,
love.
Let me see what I can give.
It's love.
It's
true, unconditional love. It's like I have artists and musician friends who say, well, how have you made 15 albums? How are you touring? How are you doing this without streaming on Pandora and Spotify? It's like, well, if I said, first of all, Pandora and Spotify are disempowered models that are about wooing artists thinking this is the only game in town, and you're getting micro pennies on the stream. I go, this is what I do for a living. This is a career. And so if I value my worth in the world with what I do, with these services, part of that is knowing what you're worth in the capitalistic model. And so coming up with a lovingly balanced way in which you forge your path. I do believe humans want to be self-determining. Ming wants to run a podcast center. This is his passion. I'm sure it is. Some people are just not cut out for 9 to 5. So you're going to force everybody into the 9 to 5 model. It's not going to work. So I think as you learn to discover your own authentic power and voice, right, through the practice, because that's what yoga gives you. You see yourself spending 2 years and finally you can do a handstand technically correct, safely correct, anatomically correct, right? You feel like, wow, and you did it. And good teachers are just like her with the pom-poms on the sidelines cheerleading you on the whole time of your development. That's why we do it, because we went through it. Somebody was cheerleading us on, and that's what being a good human's all about, I think.
Yeah.
Just being a good human. But that we have to kind of rodeo in our own ego and our own tendency to be jealous and competitive. And it's all just these traumas that are just looping around. And whoever brings them up, and that's okay. But as long as we know this, then we can always have the conversation and just say, knowing that I'm 50% responsible for everything I say and do and what it brings up in someone else. Not that we walk on eggshells, because
I love that. You're 50% responsible
all the time.
for
Absolutely.
everything you say
That's
and do.
one of my books I've been
and
writing.
how it responds in someone else.
Yeah, it's you see that we're all in this trigger party together.
Yeah.
And it's okay. But as we understand and own in the moment, that's where the practice comes in. When you in the moment within a finger snap know that you just got triggered and you can smile, oh, wow, honey. Or if you met your partner, wow, honey, you just brought up my father's stuff. Let me go take a walk. I love you. Let me be right back.
How do you stop it? How do you pivot it?
Yeah, and not project it at the person you care about most.
Because it just
you know?
keeps going on and on like this vicious cycle.
But that's the learning. That's what this is what this time on the planet is for. So that we can bring back this consciousness, adeptness with how we're trying our best to be better humans. Lord knows I'm not perfect. You know, sometimes
I wish I could write that down. This is what the time on the earth is for.
We're the generations that are here to bring in the catalyst to integrate the
I'm
wisdom
gonna
of the
replay
past. You're recording it. I'm recording it.
Yeah,
The wisdom of the past. There's more people out there foraging and learning about foods and farming. There's Montessori schools growing, organic vegetables on the tops of roofs of schools. This is not rocket science. This is not new stuff. We are the regurgitation generation. We are taking all this great knowledge that has been talked about, taught, disseminated for hundreds and hundreds of years, and now we're trying to integrate it into the modern society we live in.
Exactly, and that's what makes the practice vibrant.
Yeah, but
and
right
alive,
now
and not
we're
something we just keep doing.
We're
on the
hyper
rote.
distracted. I see my college students. None of them can sleep. I stay with the music because all my sound-based work is proven for sleep and anxiety and helping smooth the nervous system out. And so I do that because that's kept me gainfully employed, thank God, because there's a lot that I do, and I'm just trying to figure out where of all these skill sets and services I have, where is it most benefited? Where in society is the need for what I'm specifically doing? I do a lot, but I'm getting just more, focused and clear, like, okay, one person can't do it all. All of us are tribally trying to contribute to bettering the world in some way. And I think we're all feeling it. People are just waking up from the matrix. So there's more and more of us needing to be here for each other, to have these conversations. But it's more than just talk. We have to help each other walk our walk and really do the work. And that's where it gets uncomfortable. Any type of trauma healing, going deep into the body and the fascia to really release. And then that's where we start to see the miracles happen over time, and knowing that it takes time. It's not an overnight thing. It's not a quick fix. It's not a pill. It's an alkaline diet. It's juicing. It's a lot of different things.
There's never one answer to
See, on this drum, we have a note. Every note is a different part of the puzzle. I always use Bob Ross's painter's palette as the analogy, because that guy will just chill you out if you just listen to Bob Ross. Sometimes you don't want to do yoga. Sometimes you don't want to get a massage. You're not in the mood to be worked on, even in a physical, spiritual way. So you throw on Bob Ross.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times we talk about yoga, but we're really talking about the physicality of it, when the practice of it should run seamlessly through every point, every moment of our life.
And that takes time. And you can't rush that process. You've been on the mat long enough.
I think it takes lifetimes, though.
It depends on if we're going to say lifetimes, if we're going to reference that this is all about reincarnation and lifetimes, not everybody believes that. So in respect to the people listening, it's all. So
our work doesn't. I feel though like our work doesn't get done just in one life. A lot of times,
it depends. Well, so the idea with that is,
I'm not sure. And personally, I'm not sure where reincarnation is with me. But
But the whole idea with that is, if you subscribe to the idea that there's young souls, medium rare, well done souls, and old souls. Not like a steak, or a vegan steak, whatever your preference is.
Cannibalistic.
Well, whatever, but it's just different tiers. It's like we're all on different trains, moving at different speeds, on different train tracks, getting off at different stations and meeting each other, connecting, learning, and getting back on the train and moving at different speeds. So there's different we all have different experiences. Everything for me has been compacted. By the age of 26, I took care of both my grandparents till they died. I was changing diapers. My grandfather had Lou Gehrig's, held my grandmother's hands as she took her last breath. I lost my father, had all this immune stuff that by the time I was 32, I was like, okay, wow, I'm alive again. Now what do I do? Late bloomer, all my friends were getting married because that's what you do out of college. You settle down by 29, 30, 31, 32, and you get on that part of the life path.
You get divorced by the time you're 36.
Yeah, and so now I'm helping a lot of couples, and people picking up their life again after they're divorced and they realize, but you can't, it's not about blame, it's just about the lessons that you're only capable of learning at a specific point in time because you only know what you know when you know it, you think you know what you know when you know it, then there's what you think you don't know, but you tell yourself you do. And so...
I'll need to play that back.
You know what you know. You know what you think you know, and there's what you think you know, but you don't know, but you tell yourself you do know, and that's ego. And so within that construct of those 3 tiers of awareness and consciousness is your negotiation to figure out, well, where am I at? Can I call myself out? Is this ego? Am I really connected to this? Or am I just kind of regurgitating somebody else's wisdom? But no judgment on it. It's just trying to be completely clear so that you can be really authentic in how you're approaching what you do or the conversation or the issue at hand with someone, if it's an interpersonal thing. I mean, we're constantly playing chess every day with every little move and every thought. And so this is what yoga gives you. I mean, I've been on the mat almost 30 years now. So it's like this has been a lifeline because my circulatory system didn't get a fair shake. I was impaired with that head trauma. And then all of the Western diet tied to over-antibiotic yeast infection ruining all the large intestine. And then you can't stop the practice. You have to keep some sort of maintenance practice, especially now that I've been on the road for 3.5 years since my apartment burnt down 3.5 years ago. Lost pretty much everything.
Tell us a little bit about that and your decision to live out of your van.
Well, I've taught and worked at enough ashrams over the years, and I really do love the intention of community. I believe in it if it's the right set of people, all with their own strong ability to intermanage their stuff. Otherwise, it becomes a very interesting trigger party because you're always on top of each other, living, on the same land, doing same types of chores together to maintain the land or the ashram. So I'm not judging it. I'm not attacking it. So I just want to make sure for the hypersensitive people out there who are not listening correctly, because it's inevitable that there's going to be people pushing each other's buttons just because we all react to things differently. So within all of that reactivity is where you hope that the maturity and the emotional maturity, the spiritual maturity exists between everybody committed to what's the grand vision, us all working together towards a common goal. And yeah, there will be landmines that go off from time to time, but we love and respect each other so much that we will figure this out and get through this little landmine. So being around community in and out I struggled with it too. They had swamis coming from India, like, I want to give you a spiritual name. You're such a fun man, Daniel. I want to help you come to India. And I go, but what do you would like to be called? I want to call you a special spiritual name. I go, nah, Swams, I'm good, man. I like my name. I don't need. I'm not that uncomfortable with my life experiences that I feel like I need to change my name to either if I'm running away from stuff that I want to deal with. So now you call me Jacques Malanda or something. Like I don't care about any of that. It was just. But I was rebellious. If I wasn't rebellious and going to Barnes and Nobles and reading books and getting into verbal, almost physical arguments with my doctors, I'd be dead. Because I just knew intuitively, we talked about intuition, what the doctors were telling me. I was just like, nah, that's not it, man, because this doctor over here has got a best-selling book that's saying this, and this sounds interesting to me because these symptoms are actually... So I had to be Sherlock Holmes in every area of my life for a long time. So and my father was military. I don't know the word no. You can't tell me I can't do something. The word no does not exist in a military household. You do, and that's it. There's do or do not. No try. You do. That's it. No is an illusion, just like rejection in relationships. Rejection doesn't exist. If you truly are content with what's going on with who you are and you did your best, and if your partner doesn't want to be with you, what are you going to do? Yeah, you'll feel rejection, but are you really truly rejected? You choose that. Put that in the bong and smoke that. That was Deep Thoughts. Next week on Deep Thoughts with Dalien. But seriously, there's, you learn how to see the forest for the trees. Like there's patterns and programs, and we're in this matrix of trying to really understand ourselves. And we understand ourselves more deeply when we get triggered by everybody. As long as we have the tools to own the reaction. before we project. And sometimes we get lazy and we project, and then we got to deal with the fallout, and that's okay. So the fire happened. I was chanting at the Lehigh Valley Yoga Festival. A lot of great friends out there, a great community in Berks and Bucks County. It was the end of the night. I had just finished my set, and I was hanging out to support Sean Johnson because he's another wonderful kirtan artist. He's based out of New Orleans, so we see each other every year, typically when he
And his
comes.
Wild Lotus Band.
Yeah, good, great-hearted people. A lot of
Very,
fun.
just for our listeners, very accessible kirtan band. I just want to give them a call out. Sean Johnson and the Wild Lotus Band out of New Orleans.
So every year for like 4 years or so, I was been involved in that festival. And the one night, July 25th, which in the Mayan calendar is called the Day Without Time. So it's the day of limbo before the new year starts on July 26th. I researched this later. So it's this place where everything gets a system reset. So it's really interesting, spiritually speaking, that the fire happened on July 25th and basically evicted everybody in that building. And everything, I lost pretty much everything. I kept some stuff that really smelt bad, and I just figured, well, maybe I can clean this up later and just put it into storage. But most of the instruments that I do my work with, whether it's yoga and sound or kirtan or concerts, whatever, were with me. So I figured I got downsized.
Thank God.
Evicted by God, I call it. And another good book title I'm working on,
Evicted by God. That's actually pretty good.
Spiritual colonic. There's all these different things.
Well,
Because I've spent, I'm alive because of raw food and juicing and wheatgrass in an enema bag.
yeah.
So
It's a T-shirt.
Yeah, I can't tell you the lengths at which I left no stone unturned. Another book title. To my whole, it's all good. I don't complain, but coming home to watching your life, it was like frustration looking at the building burnt. The cop was cool because it was all, yellow taped off with police barriers. I said, just give me 2 minutes. Please escort me. Let me just do a visual scan of what I'm dealing with because I'll sleep like a baby if you let me do this. Because I really have only lost one night's sleep in 3.5 years since being completely mobile now. I'm completely in what yogis call the sadhu mode. So it's kind of like almost a vagabond mobilepreneurship, I call it. And because of my friends, my community, the 300 plus yoga centers and different social work agencies and colleges, and they believe in what I'm doing, so it's like I can go now and live remotely. Rose and Stan live in Wall. They're like 75 years old. They're beautiful people. They're my best friends.
Yeah.
And I'm like their adopted son, and so I come and stay for a few days when I'm doing projects. And then I'm up in Kingston for the winter because Dennis and his wife Patty, who I've known from an older ashram, teaching.
It's unbelievable.
It's friendships. It's about me as a man.
Love.
It's love. It's me humbling, learning the humility as a man, type A, hunter-gatherer, building a business to be able to ask for help. The biggest lesson for most of us is how to ask for help. I mean, I can ask for some things, but this has been a whole new level of humility in the heart. Just to say, hey, I'd love to see you. I've got some work. Is it possible I can stay with you? To be able to ask that and not really know what people are going to say. All of my friends who have put me up, let me stay for a couple of days or a week or a month. And and I'll do your dishes. It's now turned into house sitting and dog sitting. So when I'm in certain areas, I can actually support people so they don't have to pay to put a dog in a kennel. Yeah. And I have and it's turned into this other thing where I get to have real FaceTime with everybody that's part of my tribe.
Yeah.
And now, as a result, it's just, I don't complain. My father, I really believe that his DNA just activated the minute that apartment building burnt down. And something shifted in how I was able to move through. There was 3 cars within 4 months that I needed to get to move my stuff. But every time I got a minivan to handle the salvage operation, it lasted for 3 weeks and it died. So as I'm like trying to clean the apartment, the minivan died within a month of getting it. Then I got another one, and then that died just as I finished moving my belongings to my friend's garage. And then I finally got another rent-a-car in September, 3 months after the fire. And then I parked it at this house where I was doing the Long Island Hamptons Yoga Fest, and then it got hit. So it was just like you thought the fire was enough. Then it was like, no, not done. Pinball. It just boom. It was crazy looking back. And then I had to resalvage, get organized. Had to go through bankruptcy a year later. Had to restructure everything, and put your whole life under a microscope. But these are good and valuable lessons. Painful.
The resiliency with which you have met every challenge, I believe, only makes your sound that much more meaningful and So, and I do want to say, I can't remember exactly where I first heard your sound, only that I knew when I heard it, and if you were nearby, if I could get you to Inlet Yoga and share you with the community,
I remember
it would
that
be
conversation
powerful.
we had, yeah.
It would be powerful.
Because it's empty. Like, I'm empty. It's like a prayer. When you lie down and receive the pure vibration of what I'm trying to share.
And it was an experience, because I do remember very specifically being in Shavasana in your class, and it was the layer of the sound of rain outside along with what you were doing. You used everything available in the atmosphere to create the environment. That became incredibly powerful. I don't think that was the first time that I actually ever experienced sound in such a way, which I felt that it vibrated inside of me.
Well,
So
what I've learned over time, I started young. I mean, I was 20 years old when I saw Mickey Hart, who plays drums for the Grateful Dead.
Planet Drum.
Right, but he also used crystal bowls. I mean, I have 25 of them still in storage. I mean, I've been doing crystal bowls for years, and now that we're seeing, like, sound healing in kirtan is now kind of where yoga was 10 years ago. My whole thing is I do train people how to play the bowls, because if you're not calm and you're not breathing deep in your diaphragm, you're not holding the stick correctly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're not-
You can go to a crystal bowl.
Yeah, everybody, you
ceremony,
can
and then
actually...
you can go
if
to
you-
a crystal bowl.
Yeah, you can
ceremony.
actually start to feel the experiential difference between the experience of the actual presenter, no different than a yoga teacher, especially with how they play the instrument. If they're thinking or worrying about how people are receiving the sound, then you're in your mind.
Yeah.
And then you're in your
You're
ego.
not the
Because
faucet.
this work
You're-
is not performance. It's not performance. It is service. And you have to find a way through your own healing path of humbling your heart to such a place that when you sit behind to offer vibrational support, whether it's shamanic journey, sound bath with a gong, whatever it is, you have to be completely committed in your heart to just whatever comes through my voice or my hands. It's never the same experience, because it's your custom love healing soundtrack in that moment. It's yours and yours alone. It's never the same. And that's because I try to obviously keep doing my work so that I can stay present. It's like a manual transmission. You just move in and out of these different gears of the heart to be able to then bring the work forward so people can actually relax, get into the diaphragmatic breathing, the Durga breath, which they teach you in basic pranayama, to regain that trust. And it is a process. And when people feel, as you and anyone else who's experienced what I do, yeah, it's theta brainwave. It's true deep theta brainwave, where you're hovering. You know you're in the room, but your body's like going through, like Doctor Strange, Marvel, time-space continuum. You leave your body. Dimethyltryptophan, DMT, secretes in your brain. And you're in this place of just fluidness, and everything relaxes. And so with theta healing and theta sound-based healing, the intentions, the things that you're thinking, you can literally get so adept at this work that you can actually talk to your body and release and just say, liver, let go, or whatever's going on. And through that repetition of this work and the relaxation response, then the body starts to feel peaceful, because everything that is health-orientated in the human body in terms of processing, kidneys clean the blood, large intestine is moving out super turds of poison, sweating. Sorry, I just wanted to break it up and say super turds. I mean, we're around all this cartoon and superheroes. Super turd was an X-Men. Sleep, detoxification, crying, all these cleansing systems in the body are more efficient when you're calm. The parasympathetic nervous system responses. When you're stressed out and in fight mode and hypercortisol secretion, you can't dump. You stop crapping. And world peace will not happen on this planet until we're all taking 2 to 4 huge, woolly mammoth, awesome dumps, typically almost as big and long as this super flute here, and really making the inner biology, developing a relationship with the inner biological processes, because that's the foundation for the spirit to thrive and open, and the heart to stay open, and to heal the ego. Because when all these system control is all checked in, working great, you feel great. You ever see a dog dump? Dances around, kicks its leg after it craps. Humans should do that.
There's the image.
Yeah, there's the image. There's the video series on YouTube.
So on the dog crapping note,
Sorry,
I'm going to take us to what I really want the listeners to experience, which is you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
You, meaning your sound or the sound.
I'm not going to take
coming
a dump here in
through
the
you.
studio. That's
The
disgusting.
sound through you.
Ming's like, go for it, man. Shock value. Bring in the listeners.
And here we go.
All right, everybody out there in super podcast land, shared universe land. This is a steel pan drum. The hang drum, or the hung drum, was first introduced almost a decade ago, made in Switzerland. You may have seen it. Looks like a really big version of this. It's a UFO. This is something different that was made by a husband and wife based out of, I think, Virginia. Met them at a healing exposition weekend. And they all are just basically molded metal, heated metal, laser cut, or indented. There's many different techniques in which people are making these now since the beginning introduction of the hung drum from Switzerland. People are taking recycled propane tanks from their barbecue grills and splitting them open and tuning them and turning them into these very very ambient sounding instruments. So to give you an example of what this feels like, is it coming through sound level wise? Yeah, great. I'll just kind of center myself for a moment and offer an intention to everyone who might be listening to this or will be listening to this in the future, because you'll post it, I'm sure, to just kind of center and close your eyes. I'd ask you to just kind of close your eyes and focus on your breathing, your inhale and your exhale. And just listen, just as you hear the sound and my voice and how I kind of integrate the two, know that this is specifically being offered to everybody in this room. It's blessing your venture here. It's blessing Ming. It's blessing nothing but health and happiness and abundance for everybody out in the audience who might be tuning in. So, and world peace. I think if we can get everybody to relax more, we're going to have a different species on our hand. We're going to have a kinder, more compassionate, more collaborative species of human. How do you feel, Jen?
Time becomes something that is not a material thing, but an experiential thing.
All we
thank you so
are
much,
is
Dalien.
dust in the wind. Dude.
I love you, Dalien. Thank you so
Love you
much for
too.
being here. If you're interested in learning more about Dalien, he will be at Inlet Yoga February 2nd and 3rd, giving a soulful heart chakra workshop and meditation through the sound of yoga. You can also find him at
13hands.com. On Facebook, it's the 13 Hands, 13HANDS is the page. Instagram is at 13 Hands Music, and there's a lot of goofy stuff there, so just take that with a grain of salt. I try to do some fun spiritual satirical comedy on that just to kind of liven things up. And if you're interested in this music that you might be hearing or learning more, none of this is online anymore. There's over 200 recorded pieces of music in my total catalog, and it's all being part of a long-term vision like Netflix, but better. It's 13 hands of just monthly installments of sound healing.
Yeah, I've wanted
and
to
music.
play some of this in my classes, and I can't seem to find it. Where do I
get
find
the
it?
Bandcamp app at 13hands.bandcamp.com. The Bandcamp app is free. You can get it on the Google Store or the iTunes Store. It's a free app. And then you'll go to 13 Hands and you'll subscribe. So for the price of a latte, $3.33 a month, whatever you want. People are giving more. But then it opens you up to get monthly installments of just ambient healing music, kirtan, contemporary stuff, health tips, wellness information. Everything that I've ever experienced throughout my life is now being centralized in this monthly tribe that I'm building. Because it doesn't work. I play over 5 different styles of music, and I'm doing all this stuff as we've talked about, and you know me. So it's just better to have it in one place. People can focus. They know where to find me. It's not iTunes. It's not Spotify. It's not Pandora. It's all over the place. People are already struggling, trying to concentrate on what they do have. And everybody's clicking here, clicking that. I'm not focusing. I want just, if you want to be a part of my tribe, I want to share with you, this is where you find me. I have some interesting things happening in Nashville. Talking to some big people who are associated with Sir Richard Branson's incredible empire. Good things are setting up in terms of expansion for the coming next couple years. We'll see how it all unfolds. This is where the tribe is gathering, and I would love you to come to 13hands.bandcamp.com and try it out. Either way, you can keep some of the music. It is downloadable. It is streamable. It's streamable on your phone or your tablet. There's video posts. There's live footage. There's talks. And then the recorded music you can stream if your Wi-Fi connection is good for your phone, or use your computer and do the browser version, and then you can download those recorded tracks, put them into iTunes, and make your own playlists. So you get it from both ways.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dalien, for your time. Thank you, Ming, for hanging out with us and making sure it happens.
He'll save every one of us. I love that movie. That was the best. And Highlander, I mean, 2 of the best rock and roll soundtracks of all time was the first Highlander movie, and Flash Gordon, Queen.